Welcome back to Love and Junk. I'm Laura.
I'm John.
Today we're talking about mental health.
So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we know that May is almost over. However, we couldn't let it pass without doing a little video and just talking about it and trying to help raise awareness.
Right. Now, we've never really talked that much about it on our channel. Maybe not at all. We might have alluded to the fact at some point or other, but we both have issues with our mental health, and this is going to be a very different video from what you're used to seeing from us. This is just going to be an honest little chit chat. And the reason for it is we have found, comfort in watching other people's videos where they talk about their mental health. Because if you suffer from one of these issues, it makes you feel alienated.
Right. Well, and there's so much stigma that's out there about, mental health issues. And everybody likes to pretend that they're, the normal ones and everybody else is the one that's suffering. But you know what? I think it's more prevalent than people want to let on. And I think it's important to have these discussions.
It's important to be healthy in that way. It's very important.
Yeah, and I saw, recently I saw a billboard and it had mental health, and the mental was scratched out and it said brain health.
Brain health, yeah. So we're going to talk about maybe what's knocking at our door at all hours of the night.
Nobody better not be.
And how it affects us. And, a few things. So I guess I'll start off by, should I just talk about me first?
If you want to. We don't really have any rules on how this is going to go. So.
I have suffered from anxiety my entire life.
Yeah.
My entire life. It was different though as a kid. It's gotten worse. But I've also learned some ways to cope with it. But I definitely know that I had these things as a child, anxiety in particular, and it was never diagnosed.
Right. And I think the same with me. I definitely recognize anxiety in myself now, but it really took, well into my adulthood to recognize it. And, to be honest, it took well into not drinking anymore. A lot of times substance use or alcoholism goes hand in hand with mental health.
Right.
Because you end up self-medicating. But I believe that I have had anxiety my entire life, and it really has shaped how I've acted around people, how I talk to people, and how I feel.
Mm-hmm. Same. I can remember my mom thinking and saying that I was a nervous child. If something big was happening in our lives, I would get I would act in a different way. But when I really remember anxiety really hitting me is in this one particular class that we had in high school. And I didn't really click with the people in that class. It was also math, which the word alone is enough to strike anxiety in a person, or at least in me. And I didn't click with the teacher either. He made me very nervous. And I also, I remember having physical symptoms in that class. My anxiety would cause me to be triggered, would trigger my asthma.
Right.
And I would have a lot of issues in that particular class. And then it was the same thing, it goes beyond, when you have to give a speech, how you get nervous. For me, it would cause me to get physically ill. And it wasn't one of those things, how some people fake an illness to get out of something. I really got sick when I was overly upset about something. So I definitely think it ramped up in high school and older for me.
I just remember from a young age, not really identifying what the issue was. I just remember being very nervous, around other kids. And I remember, all the kids in the neighborhood used to hang out and everything. And sometimes, as it gets towards dusk, before the street lights come on, we're all just hanging out there kind of talking and stuff. And I just remember, even at a young age, thinking, let's just keep my mouth shut, like
Yeah.
don't say anything, because I thought that, I was risking, being made fun of or whatever.
Right.
And so it was that kind of nervousness, but it wasn't just that. It was like, it was constant.
Yeah.
It was like, what's going on at school, all the stuff kind of, bothered me. And I would be nervous, like if I was going to a birthday party, I remember that I actually, like, stepping out the door, just like stopped and made up some story about not feeling well and stuff like that, just so I didn't have to go and be around, other kids.
Which another kid, that might be the thing that they look forward to more
Right.
than anything. Yeah.
Right.
So we both have anxiety. How does it affect me on a daily basis? I would say I work from home and I never really have to leave here unless we are going to, the grocery store or whatever. My anxiety changed during COVID a lot,
Right.
like a lot. We got in that little bubble, and of course that whole thing was horrible, and so many people lost their lives and lost their livelihood, and I would never want to go back to that stage of life for any of those reasons, but I loved our bubble we were in. There was a lot less. John started working from home, and then there was a lot less outside pressure. Where I suffer from anxiety it's people anxiety. Not every person, but most other people give me anxiety. Even people like strangers at the grocery store, if they're too close to me, I just don't like it. It gives me anxiety. Not that I ever act on it really or say anything or whatever, but it just makes me uncomfortable when strangers are too close to me.
Right.
How does it affect you and I'm trying to think what else causes me. I don't really think I have anxiety other than like on a daily basis, other than leaving here and going out.
Yeah, I definitely think for like our level of anxiety, is, trying to recognize the issue first. I think if you know that you have the issue, I think you're more likely to, deal with it head on. I still feel anxiety. I mean, I'm an attorney. I go in front of juries. I talk to people all the time.
I always say this. I can't believe that's what you do when I know how he really is,
I can't believe it either. It's almost like, I don't know, I just compartmentalize things.
Yeah, you're fortunate that you can do that, because some people just can't.
And I got like the first jury trial that I ever did, I was a absolute wreck. Like, sweating, trying to talk to them, shaking. It was crazy.
Right.
I don't know if they saw that, but I definitely felt it. But, and I think the more that, you do things, the more comfortable you become with it. But I know that there's some people that just wouldn't be able to do that at all.
And some people you can just never be comfortable around.
Right.
Some people's personalities are so different than mine, and they're so like outspoken and like abrasive. They're just not my people. Those are not my people. I can't with that.
Not
so
mine either.
As far as anxiety with us, if I'm upset with John, let's say, and
When would that happen?
I don't know.
I mean, this is
on the
hypothetical
rare,
at this
on the rare occasion. What I tend to do is to bottle it up or, keep it to myself, but John can tell I'm acting differently or whatever. And I'm not talking about like some big thing. It might just be like he kind of snapped at me a little bit or whatever. Let's just say. He will get extreme anxiety because I tend to not talk to him about it, because I don't want to cause an issue, and so I don't want to be the cause of an argument. And even though it isn't usually an argument, that's my anxiety, and then me not being able to talk about it causes John to have anxiety. That's really the only kind of anxiety I can think about, like as long as we're in our bubble, and that doesn't happen very often, I would say.
Right. And I think the thing to realize about these type of issues, brain health issues, is that it's not your fault. It's just the way that you are in your brain chemistry or, whatever. And, I mean, I've gotten some medication for my anxiety, and I got to tell you, it's definitely worth it.
It definitely helps. Yeah.
It does, and it's strange. It's a chemical reaction in your brain, and you can try to control it as much as possible by controlling your actions or what situations that you're in, but you can't control that all the time. So, I mean, sometimes medication is the answer.
Right. The other thing that I suffer from, this is probably the thing that does get to me on a daily basis, more so than anxiety, is ADHD. Whoo!
What?
And this is not to make fun,
No.
because ADHD can manifest itself in different ways, and so how I suffer from it may be different than how you suffer from it, or you suffer from it, or whatever.
Yeah, and I think you said that you recognize some like ADHD tendencies
For
in
sure.
me.
For sure. And
Well, you don't have to be so emphatic.
well, because
about
it's the same way that it gets me for the most
Yeah,
time.
right.
This is how it affects me. I'm either completely hyper focused and I can't think about anything other than this thing, or I can't focus on anything at all.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place. And I'll give you an example. If I have an appointment at 4:00 in the afternoon, when I wake up, I think about that appointment I have at 4:00. And, half an hour later, how close is it to 4:00? And then I start doing backwards time math. I have to be in the shower by this time, and we're going to have to walk out the door by that time. And it's going to take us that long to get there, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And if we have to be somewhere at a certain time, I cannot accomplish anything else that day. It seems like little tasks, but I'm constantly thinking about that.
Yeah, I definitely get that way sometimes too. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and either obsessive or like avoiding is kind of the way that I operate.
Right.
Obsess on one thing, but if there's something that's giving me anxiety, that's stressing me out, I will avoid it as long as possible. I will do that math that Laura talked about in her head and be like, I don't have to deal with this now. That's a problem for future John.
Right.
And, and then it will be like obsessive when it gets to the point where it's like, oh, I have to address this.
Right. And we also handle things in different ways. We have 6 kids between us, and, there might be an issue with one of them. And an issue being, one of them upset us for some reason, let's say. And my way to handle it, and it doesn't matter if it's one of his or one of mine, my way to handle it is, so-and-so, I can't believe that they, would say this or do this, or, I'm making stuff up. Whatever it is, right? They hurt my feelings, and I need to talk about it. And John is like, they hurt my feelings too, and I never need to speak of it. He's like, done.
Let's bury that. Let's just bury it.
Yeah, but it does affect him. It still, upsets him, and he still thinks about it, but he doesn't need to talk about things in the way that I do.
Right. Also closely related with stress and anxiety is depression. Mm-hmm. And, I think we've definitely had our fair share of that. So obviously it comes, doesn't come when you want it. When you want it to, which is never, but it just comes in the most. So
Had to take a break because I'm going to talk about something. Me obsessing about what I have to talk about next is already making me upset. So I'm sorry.
So depression. I think we've been through quite a bit of that. It's been a stressful couple of years, and we've definitely had our issues, and we're definitely strong with each other, but
yeah, but a lot of outside influences have.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Depression, it's very difficult. You feel like the world could end at any day, or at least your part of the world.
Right.
And the thing to try to remember is you're not alone. A lot of people go through it. We've both had our bouts of it,
For sure. I can tell you. That's why I had to grab the Kleenex. So when we first got together, John lived somewhere else, a couple hours away. And I went back and forth for I don't know, a year and a half or so.
Something like that, yeah.
And then I moved there. And my mom was already gone. My dad passed away while I lived there. And so, while that was, sorry. All right, sorry, it's tough to get to. There's probably going to be a lot of edits on its own, and then the camera dies. So anyway, when John and I got together, he lived a couple of hours away. And for the first year and a half or so, I went back and forth. I'd go see him for a night or a weekend or whatever. And we did long distance for a little while. And then I moved there. And my dad was still with us and lived where we live now. And I lost my dad while we lived there. And so it's a lot of things. I have a lot of guilt about that. And I have all these feelings of when I lived there, I wasn't driving by restaurants that I used to go to with my dad or my parents' house or any of that stuff. And it was almost like I could pretend that he was still around because I didn't live here. And so ever since we moved back, that's when depression's really hit me. Both my parents are gone. So after we moved here, that's when it really hit me. My dad lived in 3 different places since we lost my mom. And they're in all different parts of town. And almost every day we drive by one of those places. And that's tough. You know, the restaurants that we used to eat at and all of that. And all of my aunts and uncles are gone except for one aunt. And there's just, I've lived here my whole life. So we go by and I'm like, there's my Uncle Jack's house. Or there, you know, this is where we used to have our family reunions. And everything is different now. And it just feels that way. That's like weighing on me all the time.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I didn't know I was going to get upset in this video. I thought there was a possibility, but anyway, it's hard to talk about these things, right? These are real issues. And so sometimes in our videos, people say, oh, you're always so happy, and we are for the most part. But there's also this. This is real too.
Yeah.
It's real life stuff. We have issues with one of the kids here and there. We have, John quit his job. And so,
because of stress and anxiety.
Right, which has been such a blessing to us that he's not there anymore. But then because he was miserable. He was a shell of himself when he would come home from that job. The light was just gone. And now he's home and we're happy. But
there's other stresses.
There's other stresses that John, starting up a business is stressful, and in other ways there's financial stress and whatever. So anyway, we're with you. We're walking this walk with you is basically what this video is about, and we don't want to ever pretend that we are something that we're not. We are who you see on the video. Both us eating chocolates and this, both are real. So anyway, if you're going through something, we think about you. We care about it, and you can always reach out to us if you need somebody to talk to. Some of you have done that. Yeah.
The other part of awareness is, getting help. And I feel really sad at the state of things. At least, I'm not sure about the world, but like locally, even here in Iowa, as an attorney, I have represented people in mental health hearings. There is a committal process in the state for people that are either, a danger to themselves or others. And the biggest issue with those type of proceedings is finding somewhere to get help for them.
And it shouldn't be that way.
And it shouldn't be that way. And while I was, really active in doing these type of mental health hearings and proceedings, like the governor in our state shut down 2 of really the only state-run mental health facilities and basically eliminated places for people to go, and it's really sad. So not only are we here to like raise awareness if you're suffering, and provide an outlet, maybe if you want to comment to us and we'll chat with you, but also awareness for those that are watching this that might not know that mental health is a serious issue and needs to be addressed.
The other thing is mental health care is not so easy to get, right? Insurance does not cover it the same way that it covers medical, physical, health. And it should not be that way. And also the stigma of I'm in therapy or whatever. Like, I'm not in therapy currently, but I can tell you I've had a lot of therapy in my life. And I always feel like I've been to church or I've been released from something when I walk out of there. There is so much to having somebody validate your feelings and tell you how you can deal with the issues that you are having. So if you live in a place where you can get therapy and you're able to pay for it or it's part of your insurance and whatever, I would highly recommend. Basically, you get to know somebody and you tell them your history and what you're going through currently, and they tell you ways to cope. And so I have this fascination. I always have. Started teenage years with serial killers. And when I tell people that, they think, right? It's not the gore. You know me. I'm a baby. I don't like gore, and horror is not my thing. But a story about a serial killer or somebody who has some challenges mentally, I always love those stories. And not love, what's the word? I'm intrigued.
You're interested, yeah.
Because I think, what happened to them? Did they not have medication? Was it an event in their life? Or not just serial killers. They could have went off and, could be one person. But I'm saying people that have mental illness that end up in prison, for different crimes. I always think, should somebody have stepped in? Did they not get the care that they needed? And why does that keep happening over and over and over again?
Right.
So movies like The Joker really hit home.
Oh
for
man,
me.
we left that movie and we're like,
something's got to be done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a comic book movie.
But we were in shock when we left there.
Yeah, but he couldn't get his help that he needed anymore. So anyway, of course, this isn't a happy-go-lucky video. It's not meant to be.
Sometimes life's not happy-go-lucky. So.
Right. And we want to raise awareness this month and every month. You can always reach out to us if you have an issue and need somebody to talk. And there's a million different hotlines. And
we're going to include some of that stuff.
Yeah. Look in the comments for that. So we appreciate you listening. Thank you for your love and support. As always, this is real life.
Yeah.
And that's all we have for today.
That's it, guys.
Go hug a loved one or all of them.
Stay strong.
That's right. See you next time.
Bye.